Two regenerations, well, the original and a hoax one. A Sontaran takes a breather from modernising medieval England, and the literal cliffhanger rears its head again. Welcome to another in our semi-regular series of Doctor Who cliffhangers and nail-biters. Each show is different. Each show is curated for the tastes, experiences and memories of the guest panellist. Everyone has a reason for reminiscing, experiencing and loving those cliffhanger moments. Today we have Philip Morris, a great friend of the Sense Fear channel and of course well known for recovering the remaining copies of Web of Fear and Enemy of the World, as well as countless other television and film programmes. Remember, each guest picks their three favourites and offers up one that fell flat and just did not work or function as a cliffhanger. This should be good. Good to see you, Phil.
Good to see you, Brendan. Great to speak with you again. Hope all's well with you.
It certainly does, and of course, it's a damn good excuse talking about Doctor Who. How easy is this?
Why not? Why not? Very easy. Flips off the tongue. As I say, I'm a fan, so I'm going to enjoy this definitely.
Well, my first question actually is this one, which is to you when you were making your decisions. What do you think makes a really good Doctor Who cliffhanger?
I think the approach to the end of the narrative, building the tension builds towards the end of it. I think a credible, narrative in the story that obviously that builds to something and some real jeopardy, some real danger that you think to yourself, either the companion or to himself, how's he going to get out of it? And there've been some really good cliffhangers that they just stick in mind because they're clever. They don't. I think when the audience is watching, the audience is always going to go, well, he's got to be alive because he's got to be on next week. But within that, the writer's got to create something that has something that I always remember Terry Nation saying, if you want to say the rocks on the moon talk, well, that's fine, but you have to do it in a believable way. And I think the best cliffhangers do that. Definitely.
I mean, if you go back to your childhood, I remember there was a time, I remember the Basil Brush, the countdown to Doctor Who. And it was like the cliffhanger. I always thought, especially episode 1, you're doing a countdown to the cliffhanger because suddenly the music changes. Suddenly the Doctor's in a pickle or Sarah Jane or somebody. I used to love, especially episode 1's building up to that cliffhanger.
Absolutely. And you just mentioned it there, the music. Music sets the tone. And again, we go to that dramatic build-up. The music sets it. The music when we were growing up was done by a wonderful guy called Dudley Simpson, who, I just think was a complete genius with Doctor Who. His themes are very well known amongst fandom. I thought he was great. He was great at building that tension. If you look at one of my favourites is you remember the Brain of Morgus where Sarah opens the door creaks, and you just hear like that. The music, it wasn't immersive, it wasn't banging, and it wasn't getting in the way of the drama. It was there to add to the drama and lift that, which I think is very important. That music plays such an important role in film and television.
Yeah, I remember the bit of xylophone in the Brain of Morbius. He knew how to just creep you out. I mean, Brain of Morbius is a good one. I remember the music for when the witches, the Sisters of Khan, basically transported Tom Baker, and it was just. First one is Time Warriors. So let's just see first of all it play out, and then I'm dying to know why you chose this one.
Okay.
Only a police box.
But with Lynx's new weapon.
Excuse me, could you tell me where the nearest telephone?
After me, dog, through the forest!
Oh, it must be some sort of pageant.
Who's there? Hey, what are you doing? Get off!
What places did she get here?
This is a rag-dig joke. It's not funny.
Hey,
brilliant. So, Brendan, I'm going to take you back now. So, in the early 70s, the BBC and the Doctor Who production team employed a wonderful sculptor by the name of John Friedlander. Created the Sea Devils. You know, he did a lot of work for Doctor Who, but one of his greatest was the Sontarans. Now, those half masks, as they've been called, I think it started with the Ogrons in Day of the Daleks. Every year, as a viewer, then this got better and better. It kept doing steps, one step. And the peak of it for me is I remember watching this show when it went out. When Lynx removed his helmet, music as well, which we've talked about, which plays such an important role. The reveal of Lynx was so shocking. And when Kevin Lindsay, I think it was Kevin Lindsay who played Lynx, tongue out through the half mask, and you can see him sort of pulling tongues out. And it sold that whole makeup, that whole mask completely. That was a real creature. Absolutely. It was totally sold. The makeup, if you look at the colouring on the half mask, it's got that, really dark brown tones and the different blacks and all the rest of it. It's not, it's the detail is there. And I think that is the best. That's the best Sontaran makeup there's ever been. I don't think the following stories were as good as that. Even though they were played by Kevin Lindsay, I think the makeup and the mask there were fantastic. Absolutely brilliant.
He had bits of hair and everything.
Absolutely. Brent, the thing is, Brendan, when you were watching it at the time, I mean, prosthetics now, they put, they always try and use the human face now, which they weren't doing then. This was an alien. He's not even got 5 fingers. He's got, sort of 3. Those funny sort of hands. And it just worked. If you look there at that the still there, you can see the way that the costumes bulked out at the top.
Yeah.
The waist comes down, the costume bigger, the whole shape of the Sontaran. I just think it's brilliant. It was a brilliant execution of the characterization, the character created by Bob Holmes, and the makeup and everything else at the end of episode 1 just completely sold it. I mean, that year Doctor Who had a new title sequence, and it became a lot slicker. But John Friedlander, that was absolutely a piece of work. Absolutely stunning.
I totally agree, because I must admit, this is a certain time for me. I agreed with that tunnel sequence. In fact, I always thought I could see a Sontaran in the tunnel sequence. There's a shade.
Right, okay.
I did. Every week I thought, that's a Sontaran. But actually, I do remember sitting down and watching this first episode. I remember the build-up. I remember seeing that shooting star. I remember thinking, because of the bulk of this night, and as a kid, you love doing nights and all the rest of it at school. But see this, it was. Why is he not taking his helmet off? Why is he not taking it off? So the build-up to that, when he just goes, "Oh, I'll have a breather, I'll have a fag," is fantastic.
It is, absolutely. And you look at that. The still photographs that were taken from the episode. I mean, that stands up today. That you can poke fun at any part of the production, but you know what I mean. You can't poke fun at that. It's fabulous, and I've got a very special place in my heart for this story. I got married, so as I say, it holds a special place for me in Cheshire. Yeah. That's where the Sontaran. Sorry, that's where the Time Warrior was filmed.
Oh, so you did a school trip there?
No, I got married there, Brendan.
Sorry, it cut out at that point. I apologise. It cut out.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I got married at this location. This is Peckforton Castle in Cheshire. That's where the Sontaran experiment was filmed, and I got married there. I had the castle for a weekend when I got married.
So I don't want to pry, but on your honeymoon, on the night, did you take your helmet off? Like, let's go. Hey.
I didn't. No, it wasn't like that at all. No.
Yeah, well, you see, this is it, because the reception wasn't very good, and I thought you said you went on a school trip there. A school trip and a wedding is slightly different, but anyway.
No. I got married at Peckforton Castle. No. I got married there. We had the owls from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Well, the owls from Harry Potter at Peckforton Castle. We had the owls for our wedding ceremony. The owls carried our wedding rings down the aisle. They flew to the best man's arm. So
Very
it was
good, very good.
It holds a special place in my affections.
And of course, this is obviously Sarah's first story. We were getting used to her after loving Joe Grant. And, I loved the lines when she's like, oh, I think this is some pageant. I think it's some students and all that stuff. I liked that dialogue when I was a kid. I thought, oh, yeah, she doesn't get it.
Well, do you know what? Liz Sladen has got to be, probably my favourite Doctor Who companion, because obviously she's from Liverpool, but not just that. I just thought she was absolutely... She gave her heart and soul into that part. I really felt that. And I just felt she was a real character. I believed in everything she did. And, she was a beautiful looking woman. She was a lovely, lovely looking woman. Yeah. I thought a lot of her when I was growing up. I was very sad when she left at the end of Hand of Fear. And, I thought, well, why is she going? Why does she have to go? And then obviously, a couple of episodes in, then there's somebody else there. And so you just carry on. But yeah, she's fantastic.
And what a swine it was, wasn't it? They told us that Sarah Jane, because she's not a Gallifreyan, she can't go to Gallifrey. And then Leela gets married there. Everybody ends up in Gallifrey. And you think, what a scam. She could have gone.
Well, you do with hindsight. If you try and link up what different writers do, obviously Bob Holmes had written that a certain way, and different writers have obviously written scripts, another way to take it in another direction. But I get what you're saying. There's a few continuity holes there to be found if you're looking for them.
Now, every Doctor Who fan's different. I'll be honest with you. I love seeing the later John Pertwee. He's I don't know. I liked him when he's off on his adventures. So I love the Death to the Daleks, the Monster of Peladon, that kind of time. But other people say, "Hey, season 7, wash your mouth out, Brendan."
Season 7, I know what they're talking about now, and stuff like that. I don't think you can pick sort of one season with John Pertwee. I think there's a lot of gems there. It's very varied, which is good. It was good that he started to go from the Exile to where sort of thing. But no, I love season 7. One of my favourites is Inferno. I love that story. But there's plenty throughout. It's one of my favourites also is The Mutants with John Pertwee, and not many people really like that, but it's a beautifully written script, probably a little over long at 6 parts, but the meaning behind it, and where you've got the alien who's basically changing form. I think it's an original idea. Great story. It's okay doing
with the Lynx's new weapon.
Excuse me, could you tell me where the nearest telescope?
After me, dogs through the forest!
Oh, it must be some sort of pageant.
Who's there? Hey, what are you doing? Get off!
What places did she get here?
If this is a random joke, it's not funny!
You see, the other thing, Philip, was I loved the fact that John Pertwee's doctor knew that Sontaran. He actually knew it was a Sontaran. He's nodding. So you're sat there going, he knows things. Who is it?
Yeah.
Because the good thing about cliffhangers is, how do they get resolved? part 2, part 3, that sort of thing. So you think, yeah. So basically, he takes his hat off and, as a fag, and then what happens
next? Takes his hat off. What happens next? I think there's some of the knights are calling, so he puts the helmet.
Anything else?
Why don't you ask her yourself?
TARDIS, quick! Move!
There must be some medicine or something.
He's dying, and you know what happens next. It's starting.
I'm sorry!
Exterminate! Exterminate! Exterminate!
But you can't.
I'm sorry. I'm regenerating.
Now, Brendan, the reason I like this clip or this end of episode is because what Russell T Davies does here, he takes convention. No one expected a regeneration. No one was a new actor. There was nothing in the papers or anything like that. And all of a sudden, he turns convention on his head. So basically what fans are actually stops giving them and uses regeneration as a clip. And I'll tell you now, I bet every single viewer watching that week could not wait to find out what was going on. Was it going to be a new? Yeah. It didn't turn out to be a new Doctor, but the way he turned convention on its head. And I think it's important for writers to be able to do that because as a fan, you want to know what's going on. You want every news. And to do something, take it and turn it on its head, I think that's creating for me. I really enjoyed it. I watched it at the time. I thought, that's clever. That's turning it on its head and going the other way with it. And I was impressed with it. I think, the ratings at the time were sky high, and I bet they were even higher the week after this because everyone wanted to find out who Doctor was. But obviously there wasn't a new Doctor, but, great cliffhanger. Brilliant. As I say, turning convention on its head. Not people are expecting one thing and then all of a sudden they're expecting something else. Brilliant.
I remember I was living in Australia at this point and I came back, funnily enough, to see Mum and Dad. And this was on. I videoed it, took it back and showed Jamie a lot later. And I just said, you cannot believe the country's gone wild. Richard and Judy were talking about it at tea time on Channel 4. Then, BBC Breakfast, all the papers. It seemed that unlike now, it seemed like everybody was talking about Doctor Who.
Yes, absolutely. It was, as I say at the time, this is Russell's first run on the programme. And, there were some things I liked. Some things, obviously I wasn't that keen on. But this, as I say, we're talking about cliffhangers. This week, definitely.
It had so many bits that to see a Dalek just appear out the blue to ruin the romance moment. Yeah, and take him out. That was brilliant.
It was. I can understand where Russell was coming from with the romance bit because basically Doctor Who had been a long time. So you're not sure who your audience are. So you're throwing a lot of lines out there, well, it's the Doctor. Well, hang on, there's people here, there's whatever, there's a romance here as well. So I guess from his point of view, he's just trying to throw as many lines out to hook an audience as possible. That's where I think from my point of view, that's where he was looking at, to trying to appeal to a wider demographic when he's done that.
Well, it'll surprise a lot of people because me and you we've had our criticisms of our good old RTD over the years, but that first era, he did hit the ground pretty well and substantially. Yes, there were one or two things, but this was. I just think in New Who, this is probably, I think, the best cliffhanger of all. It just peaks. So there's so much going on. Yes, you've got the Hawks regeneration, which you almost were convinced by. Then you've got the Torchwood under attack. You've got Sarah Jane about to be exterminated. You've had a half extermination of the Doctor. Rose is back. Earth is under attack. This is just off the scale. This is like Doctor Who going Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon epic, isn't it?
It is, which Russell's borrowed from many times. Russell's borrowed from many.
It has been my favourite, the Donna Noble, David Tennant kind of link. That This after
Yeah.
Runaway Bride time, I thought that was fab.
It was good for the day, you know, as I say, it was good for the day. And, you know, when you look back at these things, this is the good stuff that Russell put out there. You know, obviously, it's slightly he's tainted it now with obviously with the stuff that he's come out with since. But this is when you could see his love for the show was there. His love for the show was there, where probably later on it's not. But there's a lot there in that cliffhanger. It was great, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is my personal bit. I absolutely love this. You know, the big scene is all this going on, and then there's a Dalek behind a van, like a traffic warden on a mission. It's fantastic. It's
I've got to agree. I've got to agree. Yeah, definitely.
And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's that lad in me, you know, because you know the lad's going, oh, this is getting a bit mushy now. Oh, this is getting, and then you go, no, let's just kill. Let's ruin the scene.
True, very true. Yeah, no, it was great. Yeah, it was great.
I mean, I suppose there's loads of issues there. I know. I mean, the size of that gun, it got silly. You know, the size of those guns. Remember Rose in this? What the hell are we doing? I mean,
exactly. I think you've got to be careful, because I think if it's something like the Daleks, you know, it starts becoming predictable.
Yeah.
You know, the Daleks get defeated in every story, and yet they're supposed to be the most terrifying thing in the universe. So after the time they start losing that reputation, you know, they're not as cunning as they used to be. They were really cunning the Daleks. So I think you're into the area of what I would call diminishing returns when you start to overuse character.
What did you think of that TARDIS?
I didn't like. I'll be honest with you. The TARDIS for me is what I always used to read in the Target novel. It was a battered old police box on the outside, and it was totally, you know, this amazing thing on the inside. And that TARDIS to me is a bit like a junkyard. The console's a bit of a dog's breakfast. You know, there's nothing credible there with the console or anything like that. There's nothing that links it back to anything else. Not a big fan of I'll be honest with you, I've not been a fan of any of the NUwho TARDIS interiors. I just don't think they've hit the mark. Absolutely not. I think the best one that was ever done in its design was probably Peter Bracheki's in 1963. It still has some kind of a resonance to it. I'm not saying you use that design, but it still has the best resonance to it. Resonance, should I say. But the later ones, not really. No cables hanging out everywhere, really. And so, that console room, grating, steel grating, and, you know, and handrails and stuff like that. And, you know, I thought, no. And also the biggest thing I don't like to see the inside of police box doors on the doors. It's very, very Peter Cushing. And it's also when the TARDIS is in flight and just throw the door open in space, it totally destroys any credibility. You know, you watch one of the weeks.
Sometimes when you see he's holding on to Amy's leg and she's floating in space, and you go, "What?" Or the classic one, Yaz and Whittaker sat with their ice creams.
Yeah. Thing is, if you're saying that, what's a child that's watching doing? The child will just give it 2 seconds of look over and think, "There's no drama there. This is not real," and they'll walk away. So again, we come back to believability. You know, I'm not being funny. If like Patrick Troughton's story, Enemy of the World, which obviously I returned, the final episode, Salamander is sucked into the time vortex. You know what I mean? When the doors are opened accidentally. And then, you know, 20 years later, we one's leg on the outside the TARDIS. So obviously they're not the same program. Not the same program.
No,
but
you must wonder when you...
What I used to love about Doctor Who, really loved about it, is I used to watch it as part of the family. And even when my daughter now, she's 27 now, she loves David Tennant. Oh, my goodness me. We used to watch it as a family. It was an old-time Doctor Who fan. This was a new generation. And whether I liked it or not didn't matter. They love watching it. You know, the viewing figures, you know, prove that out. So, you know, great. But as I say, we've moved on now. We've moved on. I think the show probably needs to, if it ever comes back, it needs to be somewhere else. It needs to tip its hat to where it's come from. And it needs to be a decent drama. It needs believability. believability. You know, it's not a fantasy, it was a science fiction show, so it's drama at its core.
I really applaud, as you said, the writing and the ingenuity in doing something different with this regeneration, this Hawk's regeneration.
Absolutely.
But the one thing I will just say is that hand in the pickle jar. Oh, it's all a bit too neat, all this. You know, you can see how RTD sometimes thinks. It really is almost like a computer game. There's a chalice there, and join that up, and you're thinking, that hand that was in the Christmas Invasion that was chopped off, I mean, and it's just been pickling away there, and then suddenly you just have to, not that bit.
I'll tell you what, here's the credible bit. How did they ever find the hand again? Because it fell off that ship down to earth from thousands of feet up, and they just happened to find the hand and he get it back. You know, that I think the credit goes out the window there. As I say, you've got to be careful. If you're going to do something, it has to be credibly done. Otherwise, the audience, you know, it's like saying the moon's an egg. I think they did that in one of the Peter Capaldi episodes. You know, which was actually a good story up to a certain point, and they just throw it away, and you think, well, why have you done that? You know, this could have been something really good. You know, I don't know. As I say, I can't answer. This is down to the people that obviously run the program and how they want to do it. But at the end of the day, good drama's good drama. People will always watch good drama.
Well, everybody, this is when Philip gets a chance to pick a cliffhanger he didn't like, that didn't work, that was crap.
This is easy. This is easy.
And
this one just didn't make any sense. I remember watching it at the time, and I'll be honest with you, when Sylvester McCoy was cast, there was a program on ITV, it might have been Scott of the Antarctic. He was in that drama and he was really good. And I thought, this guy's going to come in. And I've seen him in Vision On, because I watched that when I was a kid. I've seen him in The Omen and all the rest of it. And I thought, he's wanted this chance because he wants to get his drama and he's going to show a completely different thing. But then I was disappointed because he didn't do that. That sort of first series he did of Doctor Who, he was the same guy that was in Vision On, which was very. It was disappointing, you know, because John Pertwee had been a comedic actor, but he came in to do Doctor Who and he played him straight, and he didn't need to do that. He could have been, you know, I'll just, you know, put a funny voice on or wear something like that, but he didn't. He played it as himself. And I thought Sylvester McCoy would do a similar thing, but he didn't do it. I was a bit disappointed in that. But that's probably down to, obviously, the producer at the time and what ideas he had, you know, to bring it out there. But, you know, as I say, this cliffhanger, Dragonfire, just epitomizes everything that was bad about that show at the time. Absolutely.
Well, I'm now going to inflict it on you. So... Here we go.
I'll ask a question. Brendan, why? Why? Why?
I've got an answer as well. You remember when you did PE in primary school and you wondered why the hell you were hanging upside down sometimes? Why are we doing this? Why have we got a beanbag on our head? Why are we running around like pillocks? Maybe it's that.
Absolutely. It's just ridiculous.
I can hear him when you build in Sylvester McCoy up in the hopes, and I wonder what he's going to do with the role. He's really gone for, I'm a very physical Charlie Chaplin type, hasn't he? He's really gone to, I'm good at this. And I'm thinking, but link it to the thing. Now, apparently in the plot, there was going to be a dragon in the way, so he'd have to go around it, hand on there while a dragon goes past. That scene was cut.
So the narrative to the viewer just didn't make any sense at all. Okay, well, that's one way to lose viewers. You know, people going, this is nonsense. This is absolute nonsense. It just doesn't go anywhere. So, it's you know, absolutely, you know, it saddens me to think that, you know, so many talented people on television that that's what they came up with. It's just it's very sad.
The other thing, Philip, is this was a literal cliffhanger in Doctor Who that was famous for cliffhangers. You've got Doctor Who now has an umbrella with a question mark on it. He has question marks all the way down his jumper. And you just think, like you've been saying a few times tonight, should I be taking this seriously or should I just laugh at it?
It's basically the parody's become a parody, really. That's what's happened. It's not. There's no credibility there. I feel also when I look at the costume, it's trying to draw on Patrick Troughton with the trousers. It's trying to get that kind of vibe going, and that's a huge mistake. Patrick Troughton's Patrick Troughton. Sylvester McCoy's Sylvester McCoy.
It is, I know. It is. There you go. The most literal cliffhanger in history, I think. There we go. But I don't know what's worse. Is it the cliffhanger itself, which now makes no sense? Is it him? I remember Tam and Irani, he thinks, well, I can do the spoons, so can I do a scene with the spoons? And they're trying just to show off stuff. And I'm thinking, no, but Tom Baker was a bricklayer when he got the job. We're not going to do a bricklaying scene, are we? What's going on here?
No, absolutely not. I think basically it's what you find is when a production team are out of ideas. One thing about John Nathan Turner, he didn't understand story or script, and that was from day one. He was brought into the show because he was good at managing money. That's why he was brought into Doctor Who, because he was the one that said, "Look, I can do it on this budget. I can make it cheaper. I can get rid of Dudley Simpson, save on the incidental music, and I can use in-house radiophonic workshop. I can save money there." So I think he was more like a bank manager than a producer, where previous producers had been script editors before. Philip Hinchcliffe, Graham Williams had also been a script editor. Each of the producers, if you go all the way back, understood the importance of story and the importance of script. And they're the things. Forget about anything else in Doctor Who. Who's going to play the Doctor? Until you've got a good script, believable script with a great story, great narrative at the centre of it, then it doesn't go anywhere. It really doesn't.
It's going to be a funny one, this. I'm going to be saying, so what do you think happened in part 2 then for him to get out of this?
Do you know what? I never tuned into part 2, I have to admit. But I wonder why. I think I can give a decent reason that I thought I'm not watching this. I must admit, I never watched all of Sylvester's stories. I remember probably the highlight for me was the Curse of Fenric, which was something like, you know what I mean, how the show should be. It was going in, that was the right direction for it. But it's, there's too many. There's a lot of good things, but the bad things seem to outnumber the good things. So, and as I say, I watched it at the time. Not all of it, but I watched a good amount of it, and it was dreadful. It was pretty dreadful, definitely.
And surely that means it failed as a cliffhanger because you didn't tune in the next day.
No, it didn't. No, absolutely not. It was. To be honest with you, it was a difficult time to be a Doctor Who fan, as the show's become now. Because at the time, everyone it became a laughing stock. It was a laughing stock, and it was put on at 7:30 in the evening opposite Coronation Street. Basically to kill it off. The people at the BBC had no interest in it. And I can understand from their point of view, they'd be looking at John had been there for 10 years, and it just became a parody of itself. It looked cheap, and you didn't have any directors or people there that were making something beyond the resources of the program, and that's something Doctor Who always did. It was the reason we all love the classic stuff. It goes with its resources. The resources they had to make it. The story's great. You'll get a really good guy who does the makeup and the costumes. You're buying into it, then you've got a really good actor in the lead part. That's why I feel the classic series work. But as I say, you start taking those things away, and then it becomes, a parody.
Well, Here we go. This will be a revelation for you, as revelatory as you find in Web of Three. Here we go.
Oh dear.
What
Am I going to be disappointed?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm prepared.
Here we go. I'll set it up for you. So, right. So we've got the classic cliffhanger going here. And then how does it get out of it? Here we go.
I'm about to plummet to my death! Please!
All right.
Well, Brendan, what can you say? What can you say about that? It's absolute. What are they doing? Have a bit of a laugh. You know what I mean? Let's send. There's no drama there. Absolutely none. And this is the problem. This is where the problems start.
It's absolutely shocking. Yeah, it's like like you say, it's like watching Buskers or something and going, "Oh, is that all you've got to offer me?" I just don't know why they set it up like that. Why they continued with it. Sabalong Glitz, he was, and you saw then how far he's handing down in episode 1, and then suddenly Sabalong Glitz is underneath and he's just on his shoulder and he does some kind of circus act.
It's nonsense. It's just, as we said before, if you're going to do any piece of drama, as Terry Nation once said, it has to be believable. The Rocks can talk, but you have to do it in a believable way. There it is in a nutshell.
I'd love to have seen Verity Lambert's face, Philip Hinchcliffe's face, Barry Letts, if they saw anything like that and went, right, okay.
I think they did actually. I think Terrence Dix, I think they did comment on that era of the program, and it's sad. I'll tell you why it's sad, because these are the people of hard work into that program. Got to remember, Doctor Who then at the BC, it wasn't about its resources, it was about its creativity. The producer, the script editor, that's where it started. And obviously its star, and back then, the 70s, we had 2 doctors, John Pertwee, Tom Baker. Yeah, we didn't have one for 3 years. We knew that the doctor was the doctor. That actor came in, he stamped on it. He was fully supported by his producer. The scripts were good. We had a wide array of writers in the 70s who took us all the way through the 70s. It was, it was great. It was a golden era. It really was a golden era. But that's what they're the keys to Doctor Who. It's those creative things. It has to be believable. Has to to have good stories, good solid science fiction stories that people can relate to. There's got to be reality in there somewhere. Because if you're going to do something fantastical, that's Elliot. That's how you sell that story. As I say, for me, I like nothing more when someone who's not a fan, when they love it, if they can find it accessible, then that's it. We've got it right then.
Well, let's cheer you up with...
brilliant.
Cheer up with... In a way, I'm saying cheer you up, but of course, it's kind of a missing episode. Hello, you get onto it, you. But yes, is there an irony here? Is this very meta, everybody? Brendan does this cliffhanger show. I get Philip Morris on, who's famous for finding missing episodes, and he picks some missing episodes for me to show him. What's going on here?
It's a great episode. It's a great episode, Brendan. And when you think about it, when this was done in 1966, again we go back to this program then, like the Web of Fear, Enemy of the World. They were making this 48 weeks of the year.
Yeah. Not
6 or 8 weeks. This was 48. So this never had a break. This was running all year round, and yet still they kept the quality. And there's a magic to this episode. There's absolutely a magic to it. Just the way that Derek Martinus, who was the director, just how he shot this and how he set it up. He added a magic to it. He really did. I remember when I first heard it was missing, I thought, wow, why have the other episodes, and why that episode 4, which is historically as part of the program, it's a key moment. It really is a key moment. Because you've got to remember that the audience at the time weren't expecting this. And this lead character, he was dying. And he was getting faint. It's far from being all over. Heads back to the TARDIS, and then the TARDIS is off. There's no explanation. There's no dialogue. You've just got this again. We come back to the soundscape. Something that, Dick Mills, all the rest of them were working at the BBC at the time. All these special sounds, you'd never hear them anything else. The TARDIS is operating itself. The columns going up and down a little bit. The noises that were there, the switches and everything, the levers are throwing themselves. Again, zero dialogue. I look across the camera from William Hart, sweat down his face. And there's the tension for you. It's building. But you feel there's something magical is happening. It's magical. The TARDIS is operating itself. The doors open them, so they start banging the doors. The doors, open up. Ben and Polly come in, and then the magic happens, And you've got to remember, I go back to the people that made this show. You've got to remember this. Doctor fans forget it. There'd never been a change of the lead character. This was a massive, massive risk. Could have gone completely wrong. You know what I mean? People thinking this is nonsense, this. But the way it was sold, and especially over the next episode of the next story, I thought it was very cleverly written. I think Hartnell had a beautiful exit in this episode, beautiful exit, and where the cliffhanger finishes, I think the audience must have been spellbound. What the hell is going on? And this was on the 5th of November. Was it 1966? Was it? No, it was the week before. Yeah. 5th of November, 66. That was the Power of the Daleks Part 1. That was when that was transmitted. But I'll be honest with you, those two episodes for me are very key. Yeah. Very key to the series, that you can just those two pieces, because they complete a story, the end of one era and we head into another, and how that era begins, because it's very cleverly written.
Well, the truth is, I've got it edited in part. YouTuber playing games, so I'm going to show Philip it now. He'll obviously be able to respond. I may have to edit the bits out. We'll see, but we'll get Philip's response. He obviously knows this episode pretty well, but let's show it now. Here we go.
This old body of mine is wearing a bit thin.
You mean wearing a bit thin?
Oh, don't worry, child, don't worry. We cannot absorb much more energy. We prevented it being fired at you. We helped you. You helped us.
It's no use talking to these geezers.
Your planet is finished. It will disintegrate. We know why you came here. We accept your terms. The warhead will be removed from the rocket.
Keep back! Keep away from me! You don't mean it's going to blow up, do you?
No, I don't know, child. This is an unknown power.
Doctor, I'm scared!
It's falling to bits.
That beats having a cloister bell.
Wow. It does beat having a cloister bell. But the soundscape, listen to the soundscape. There's no dialogue in the TARDIS. No dialogue. The BBC radiophonic with their sound effects, which I think have always, even in NUwho, they've never used them. They're classic. They knew how to add those just to lift the drama a little bit. And that's an absolutely classic during the 10th Planet. Derek Martin's, the way all the controls are operating themselves, the TARDIS, nothing's ever said. But you get there's more. This isn't just a machine. We're not going any further than that. It's left to your imagination. I've always thought with Doctor Who, please don't explain things away, because each fan watches it and it catches his imagination, and he'll go away and think, well, maybe it was doing this, or maybe it was doing that. But that's what imagination is, and that's the job of the program, to make people think. Don't explain it. Well, the Doctor's this, well, he's that. He must never be expert. He's an enigma. And the TARDIS is also an enigma. It has to be an enigma. An enigma, as I say, it never gets solved. But there's something about it that we're never going to know. We don't need to know. Something magical there. Don't explain it away. And that's a perfect example. during, at the end of the 10th planet where the TARDIS operating itself, it must be thinking for itself. Has it got some kind of, I know this in NUwho they talk about a consciousness, but this is different. This is different, and I just thought it was a fabulous episode. Like another one, like a bit like Graham Harper. He has something, he really thinks these things out, bringing things to it to make it, this is a program that was, and the reason we love a lot of these old classic episodes is because that they did above and beyond with their creativity. I mean, look at the Cybermen, the original Cybermen. The thing that creeped me out about these, I remember, is, he puts his hand out in the snow and you can see a human hand.
Yeah.
The thing is, not like you see in Stephen Moffat's story. He's got a latex, washing your dishes glove on. This is a human hand with some couple of lines going into it. And, you think that's a person. That there's the human touch to it. And especially with this, when you see the eyes as well, you see the eyes, you see the mouth. There's something quite creepy about those original Cybermen. I really do, especially in that story. They really do. They really do work well.
So in the end, it worked out very nicely that William Hartnell, this famous, amazing moment in television history,
yes,
and we were introduced to the Cybermen as well. I mean, it just added that importance that people probably didn't realize at the time that these were going to become.
No.
I mean, I have to say, we've all seen an adventure, Mark Gattis's drama. Yeah. And when you see that last scene, and William Hartnell is the one who seems to know how to make the TARDIS time rotor work. And I don't know, it is so sad. And every actor who plays Doctor Who says this is a very dodgy moment, isn't it? So, I think John Pertwee was filling in fan mail, wasn't he, before his regeneration? They all have to do something, don't they? Because even though they've said they're leaving, it's a big moment and everybody's hushed.
It is. You've got to remember that William Hartnell was the original guy. He probably thought, I'm Doctor Who. It's simple as that. He's not going to can't be replaced, and obviously he had to be replaced because of poor health or whatever else was going on at the time. But I mean, he was a film actor. He was a big film actor. When anyone says, "Oh, William Hartnell this, William Hartnell that," hang on, this program was on 48 weeks of the year. So basically learn your lines one week, and it's getting shot on the Saturday. It's a big strain for an actor of that age. It's not like in the 70s we go to 26 episodes, which is only half a year. Which is 26 is fine. 26 episodes a year was fine, but 48 in the 60s. I mean, even when you get to the end of the 60s, Patrick Troughton admitted, he said, "I'm exhausted by it." He was really. He was burnt out by the show, by the end of the 60s. He did it for 3. People say, well, Patrick Troughton did it for 3 years. He did, but how many episodes did he do over that 3 years? The optimum time for a Doctor's 3 years. Yeah, when you're doing 48 weeks of the year, maybe it is, but not in the modern series where you're doing 9 or 10. You're not getting a chance to get to know that actor. That you need someone to. The problem I find with modern Doctor Who now is there's no actor that's associated with it that's stamped on it. You think he's the Doctor because you're just thinking, well, he's here. Well, when's the next one coming? They'll change every 3 years now. They'll change it like a tire. We've got to the point where they're going, well, the optimum time for an actor is 3 years. What an absolute nonsense! It isn't. No, it's not. We've got into this trope of, well, this is how it works, and there's no room for creativity there or new ideas that don't push away what's gone before, but just dovetail to it nicely, and take it somewhere else.
Well, Philip, as a bonus, that was the 10th planet, but then it was shown in a different way later, wasn't it? And this is, I do want to get your response to this. This will be gold dust, everybody. Just watch Philip Morris's face when I show him that. He's seen it, I'm sure, but this is 10th planet again.
What's happened to you, Doctor?
That old body of mine is wearing a bit Nothing.
Doctor, wakey, it's all over now.
This isn't all over. It's far from being all over. I must get back to the TARDIS. I will not change.
You may be a Doctor. Original, you might say. Here we go. The long way round.
Yeah, a lot of people like that. I personally don't. I think it's probably a bit disrespectful to Bill Hartnell. I like David Bradley. I like David Hartnell. You know what I mean? He's sort of a stand for Bill Hartnell. And there's only ever one Bill Hartnell. So for me, it would have to be. You know, I know it's not at the BBC, but it'd be nice if maybe one of the finds that Film is Fabulous make at one point could be 10th Planet Part 4. That would be a lovely find. But an important episode, I think. Yeah, great. As I say, I'm not a big one for all that big orchestral music. The original with all the original radiophonic sound effects. That's how it was made in '66. That's how it wants to be seen again today. You shouldn't be going in retrospectively and trying to do things because it isn't the same. It can't be the same. You can't catch lightning in a bottle twice. Fans may like it, for a little purist. I'm a bit of a purist with stuff. Think if any artist creates something, you shouldn't go back in and alter the work that they've done because that's theirs. If you want to do your own thing, away from that, creatively original, that's fine. But I don't think you should go back in and say, "Oh, look, I've done this." I'm not a big fan of it. I wasn't a big fan of the war games where they made out the master was,
The master.
I thought that was just a complete and utter nonsense, because it was never meant to be that. And Terrence Dicks, obviously, and Malcolm Hulke wrote the scripts, and that was never their intention. To go back in, it's kind of a bit fanboy, and it's a bit like going. It's a bit for me. I'll be honest. It's a bit like going to the Louvre and putting a moustache on Lisa and say, "Look, I've made it better." And I'm sorry, but no, it's not for me. But that's just my opinion. Opinions vary.
It's a bit like that. Okay, I could see what Stephen Moffat was trying to do by upgrading it or joining the dots or doing something like that. However, the bit I struggle with is the forced bit where the first Doctor is in the South Pole and he's going, I don't want to regenerate. And you've got his regeneration fairy dust thing. And you're going, oh, don't do that. Don't do that. You've made the first Doctor, who seemed very brave while he was tired, facing the Cybermen, and then he's knackered. And now you've got him going, oh, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. They've turned him into another David Tennant.
But again, I would say, that's for a different generation of people, and it's not William Hartnell, so it's not. It doesn't fit in. See, for me, really, the classic series and NUwho are two separate entities. For me, they're not the same program. I mean, fans will say, "Oh no, it's the same thing," but it isn't. It's not the same show. When it came back in 2005, it was a continuation. I thought it was a route, and it was something else, and it felt like that. There wasn't enough in it for me. But that's just my opinion. For me, I'll always go for the classic series because the way it was written, the way it was directed. From the 60s, the creative people that were involved in it, they're my heroes, those people. The David Whittakers, the Verity Lamberts, all those sorts of people. Terrence Dicks, absolutely Terrence Dicks, Philip Hinchcliffe. But, not because they worked on but because of the dedication they had to that program and doing the best that they could with, the skills they had and the budget that they had. And it stands the test of time, obviously. We've seen the Blu-ray box sets. Most of us have got those. It's a wonderful piece of television.
Well, that was Philip Morris's Cliffhanger's Nail Biters show selection. That's been really interesting because Funny enough, did you know you were doing this? You were picking 2 regenerations, you swine. You were getting greedy.
We're getting greedy. I think, no, to be honest, I never picked it on regenerations. I picked it on, how the episode ended and basically how it went out at the time. Not how it's viewed now, but how it went out. And for me, it's all about the audience and giving the audience not what they expect, turning it on its head. Because with a long-running show, you can fall into those pitfalls. A fan can go, we know what's going to happen here. And this is what happens with the Doctor. And they can explain it to the non-fans in the audience. But when you turn it on its head to the fans, I think, I'll be honest with you, one of my favourite movie directors and writers was the director of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Yeah. Is that Nick Meyer?
Nick Meyer, yeah. Now, I'm a huge fan of Nick Meyer because he turns what you would expect on its head. I mean, the way he killed Spock at the end. I mean, Spock was supposed to stay dead. That's how he wrote the script. But I mean, Nick Meyer, of all else. I mean, I don't know if you know the story with Nick Meyer. It's not a Doctor Who story, but he wrote the script for Star Trek II. And was never really paid for it. He had about 6 or 7 scripts, and in 11 days, he took all the elements out of all the other scripts that I liked, and then he wrote the script in 10 or 11 days, and there was never credited for it, and it was not even paid for it by Paramount to this day. He did it for nothing, and then directed the movie. But again, we come back to the same thing in Doctor Who with Doctor Who's directors. It's that creativity, and it's turning what you expect on its head. It's a very difficult thing to do, I think, for any director or a producer of a show. I think you get a run in it with so much enthusiasm, so many ideas, and then you know when it's time to go and let somebody else have a go. And then that piece of work that you've done will stand on its own. I think Russell did that during his first run with Doctor Who. I mean, I didn't like all of it, but like I said to Russell, he'll probably mention this at some point. When I spoke to him at the BI, I said, you got an audience. And that's what television's about finding an audience. And he did. He was getting 9 or 10 million viewers. He had an audience. He had an audience for something. It might not be something, you love like him, and it's changed a little bit. But that's what it's all about. That's exactly what it's all about. But as I say, with Doctor Who, for me, the 1960s and the 70s are my favourite era. I love them. I love them for the creativity. That's creativity. Yeah. Listen, we've got no budget at the BBC, but we've got creativity. We've got the BBC bar where everyone meets and has a drink. So you've got this big melting pot we don't have anymore. Producers and directors, and also people coming in from Hollywood. And you had this big mix of ideas, which we sorely miss now with it sort of independent production companies. So you don't get that, let's meet afterwards and have a drink, or let's go and have a lunch and have a sandwich and a drink and we'll discuss this. And that's sadly not there now. But I love it. As I say, the creativity, Enemy of the World, never thought anything of it. But you watch it now, it's a little bit too long at 6 episodes. It's more like a good 4-parter. But David Whittaker, that's his James Bond. For me, that's his James Bond story, and it stands up again. Remember, we've no budget here. This is the 1960s. It's on for 48 weeks of the year, and this is the creativity of the production team and the writers.